being the person I was before! I wanted to go back to being the cold-blooded Saiyan I'd been in the beginning, the one who didn't care about anything except besting you in one-on-one combat. I wasn't happy! That isn't true, and you know it, Vegeta.
Majin Vegeta was the most nuanced character to ever touch the screen of Dragon Ball Z, and I want to talk about it. So you guys have heard me rave about how much I loved Vegeta in the Namek Saga, but what I haven't touched on is the phenomenal work that he did as Majin Vegeta. Honestly, in the worldwide Dragon Ball Z community, his work as Majin Vegeta is probably preferred to the Namek Saga, and it's for good reason. Without a doubt, Majin Vegeta is the best part of the Buu Saga. Amongst this mess of a story, you have Vegeta, who is just written so much better than every other character written around him, with a possible slight exception for Goku in the first part of the Buu Saga. But they decided to overcomplicate the story and just mess up a beautiful dynamic that we had going on between Vegeta and Goku here. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's reel it back a bit. The Buu Saga is set 7 years after Cell was defeated by Gohan. Come the martial arts tournament, Goku has been granted 24 hours to come back to Earth and spend time with his family because of all the good he did during his life. During the past 7 years, there has been no conflict on Earth. Nothing supernatural anyways. Gohan has been able to handle common bank robbers. He's slacked off and he's weaker now than he was when he fought Cell. Vegeta has just been at home with his family, raising Trunks and living with the failure that he faced at the Cell games when he declared that he would never fight again due to his failure to be an effective fighter in the final moments of that fight. Goku had to save him, and then Gohan had to save him. I feel like now is a good time to mention that Vegeta at this point hasn't really been shown to be a good person. Yes, he hasn't tried to take over the world, but at the very most, he's just seemed complacent and cares about certain people. But he's still been shown to be ruthless. When fighting Android 18, he killed people. He did not care about that. And he's been willing to kill people ever since he first came on the screen. Just because he cares about his wife and his son, and maybe a little bit about other fighters in the Z group, doesn't mean that he's a good person come this time. So having wallowed in embarrassment for years, starting with his destiny being taken from him, the right to rule planet Vegeta as a king after his father, taken from him by Frieza, that revenge against Frieza being taken from him by Goku. And then, even when he becomes a Super Saiyan himself, he's once again embarrassed by the androids and then put to shame as Goku and Gohan both have to save him from Cell. Growing up in the conditions that Vegeta did, the only thing that sustained him was his pride. He was constantly called a monkey by Frieza and beaten on by his lackeys. Nobody treated Vegeta with respect. The only thing he could rely on was his identity as a prince and what he came from. His Saiyan heritage carried him throughout his entire life, and every time he gets humbled in the series, it brings about that pain that he never let himself feel from before.
Don't you see the universe matters more than your meaningless squabble?
Meaningless, huh? Spend most of your life ruled by another. Watch your race dwindle to a handful. And then, tell me what has more meaning than your own strength.
For all of the hate and the embarrassment that Vegeta has suffered, he blames one man for every single instance, because to him, it started with him, Goku. All of the hatred that had been appointed to Frieza has now shifted on to Goku, because that is the person that stole Vegeta's revenge against Frieza. Not only that, but Goku effectively killed the pride that drove Vegeta his entire life. The same pride that allowed him to dream that he could overthrow Frieza one day, that he could become the strongest in the universe, that he wasn't just some monkey boy, but that he was a prince, a true king that could rule over the universe. That pride was killed and stabbed to death by Goku over and over and over. And Goku does not back down from this fight at all. He somewhat enables it. He plays the character that Vegeta hates, and he's ready to combat him with all he's got. He doesn't want to talk him down. He doesn't want to try and avoid this fight. He's ready to go blood for blood. And one of the most serious moments that Goku has ever had, when Supreme Kai tries to stop this fight from happening, Goku threatens to kill him on the spot. Some may argue that he was bluffing, but I say the fact that it was debatable should tell you enough. Goku was in rare form because Majin Vegeta evoked emotions in him that almost nobody else can. Vegeta threatened to kill Goku's family as well as his own family just to have this showdown. And these type of shock moments normally come off as edgy or over the top, but here it was earned because this has been built up over the course of the entire story. Vegeta has this in him, and he's had it in him ever since he first arrived on the scene. By never having his feelings addressed throughout the show, it makes sense for him to make such a terrible decision with such passion behind it. He doesn't know any better, and he's going off of impulse and old habits. This is true for his motivation as well as his purpose within the story as a whole. For the majority of Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta works as a disruptor of the story. Narratively, it looks as though the story will go one way, but then Vegeta will alter that because of his selfish wants. Examples of this would be like when he deserted Goku on planet Namek in pursuit of the Dragon Balls, or when he allowed the androids to be activated when Trunks wanted to destroy them, or even him allowing Semi-Perfect Cell to turn into Perfect Cell. He operates similarly to Joker in The Dark Knight. He exists to shake up the story and make it more interesting. The same way Joker forced Batman's hand by killing people in Batman's name until Batman revealed himself, Vegeta forces Goku's hand by torturing these people in the audience at the World Martial Arts Tournament, and we're fully aware of his desperation because of how much power means to him. He had a literal nightmare about Goku and Trunks when he realized that they were both Super Saiyan and he wasn't. So watching him finally explode and just go after the ball like he did was satisfying and long overdue.
Stings the pride, doesn't it? But still, this pales compared to the humiliation you've caused me! Rotten clown! At last, I will pay you back for every indignity.
The fight between Goku and Vegeta completely lived up to expectations and is one of my favorite fights in the series. The only thing that holds back from it was the awful decision of making Super Saiyan 3 on Goku a thing. What was a perfectly even matched bout between two main characters in the show that had been built up to from the start of it became this confusing and bad writing decision where Goku has the power to save everybody in this arc and just doesn't. Just trolls when he fights Vegeta, trolls when he fights Majin Buu, and drags this out longer than it has to be in a very irresponsible manner. Yes, I understand the arc that he's going through here, looking for a successor, but that still just doesn't make sense. And ultimately, this bad writing of Goku drags down the great writing that had been prior done for Vegeta. Unfortunately, Goku isn't the only character in here who takes away from the great writing that had been done of Vegeta in this story. Buu was an awful villain for Majin Vegeta. While Buu could have worked as a great villain for Goku, being a foil, essentially being all of the worst parts of Goku, the stupidity, the want to fight all the time, the exceeding in power, he does not work for Vegeta, specifically Majin Vegeta, who's going through all of this emotional turmoil. Buu doesn't understand feelings. Buu has no comprehension of what Vegeta is going through, and so this story is completely one-sided when it comes to Majin Vegeta. Somebody cold and ruthless really could have brought out the best in Vegeta here, like a Frieza or a Cell. You could have gotten really interesting dialogue and pushed this further. But my hypothesis is that Akira Toriyama just didn't want to put that much focus on Vegeta. It's well documented that Akira Toriyama was never a fan of Vegeta, which is odd considering he wrote Vegeta, but I believe that dislike for Vegeta made for him to sabotage this character arc a bit. If he were to be willing to lean into it the same way he leaned into Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, we really could have gotten some of the best work in Dragon Ball Z here. But instead, we get a flash of it, a glimpse of it, and then it's just tarnished afterwards because in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter. Watching it real time though, discounting what happens after the fact, the final atonement was incredible.
Just tell me one thing before you go. In this other world, or whatever it's called, will I see Kakarot again? You won't see him, no. I see. That's too bad.
In Dragon Ball Super, Vegeta somewhat merges with Goku and becomes a flat character because that's what Goku is. So it's not too far off to say that this may have been the last arc with character development for Vegeta. And it came in such an emotional fashion. The time that was put into this character and the time that was put into the build-up leading into his final atonement is what makes it special. And that's why I cringed so hard when they tried to repeat it in Dragon Ball Super. This was special because of everything that came before it. This is how you do a proper build-up, and this is how you execute a character. Now, unfortunately, they ruined it with everything that came after, but in the moment, this was some of the best work we've ever seen from Vegeta. And hopefully, we'll see him reach high heights again. But you never know. If he doesn't, at least we have this.